Hey everybody, I'm so sorry for the tech delays. We had some issues. So now I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Sammy Pollock. I am the social media coordinator for Talar Management Group. I am a digital activist. I have a passion for the arts, community outreach, culture, and social media both in the US and worldwide. I am pleased to be moderating this event in collaboration, or in celebration, excuse me, in celebration of International Women's Month, an event in which we will be having a conversation about Haitian women in leadership with Tessa Petit, co-executive director at Florida Immigrant Coalition, or FLIC. So how are you doing today, Tessa? Oh, Tessa, are you there?
Hear me?
Oh, no, yes, I can hear you now. Yes, I can hear you. Sorry about that. Okay, so how are you doing today?
I'm doing very well, and yourself?
Pretty good. So before we start the event, as some of you may know or might not know, International Women's Month is celebrated in accordance with International Women's Day, which is celebrated on March 8th. And International Women's Day is a global day celebrating the social, economic, cultural, and political achievements of women. The day also marks a call to action for accelerating women's equality, and it first came about in the early 1900s. So I wanted to start out, Tessa, by asking you, what does the celebration of Women's History Month mean to you?
It is a reminder of the work that women have accomplished so far. It is a reminder of the success that women have reached so far in the battles, in the fights that we've had. It is a reminder that not only we've had to fight for centuries for our rights and for our position in society, but that the fight is not over. And it is a reminder for all women that everything is possible. It is possible for us women to make the change that we want to see.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. That's really cool. So I know that you're Haitian, and what was your experience like as a Haitian woman in a position of leadership in Haiti?
Um, so in Haiti, the difference in Haiti is really that women in leadership have much less respect than men. We have to understand the differences. There is there is kind of a pushback on accepting the woman's authority
Mm-hmm.
in Haiti, and it is common. It is common. You can see it. You can see it in the gender roles that exist in Haiti right now. Even now, years and years later, I've been in the States for over 20 years, and you can still see it in existence in Haiti now.
Okay. Yeah. So how do you think the traditional gender roles of both men and women in Haiti affect how Haitian women see themselves as well as other women in positions of power? That kind of sort of leads, it kind of follows up with what you were saying about how, it's hard for men to respect the authority. So just kind of expanding on that, asking about the
Yeah.
traditional gender roles and how it affects how women perceive, achieving their own power as well as the powers of other women.
So here's the funny part. All studies done on Haiti will explain to you that 80% of uh, Haiti's economy is carried on by women. Women they're the independent entrepreneurs. They're the folks who sell on the side of the streets. Most women, most families in Haiti are led by women led, right? Because common law is very common in Haiti. And even though this is what you're seeing, women are harder workers. If you walk down the streets of Haiti, you will notice that you're going to see the women with a bag. They're walking. You can see that they're going somewhere. They have a purpose. It's Either they have to go get the food for the kid, they have to go work, they have to go do something. And you see men on a more leisurely walk, and you know that, and many studies have proven that women lead the support of families and the market. However, still, you will find that only up to 2020, there was only 3% of women in the parliament and only 11.5% of women in the judiciary system, which made Haiti number 187 versus out of 190 countries when it came to women in political representation. Why is that? It's because even though we work harder, even though we produce more, even though we raise children, right, we're still seen as Haiti is still a very conservative country. And so it's still, women have no business being in politics. Women have no business leading businesses, and that men are meant to be providers. Even if they're not really providing, then they're meant to be the leader.
Mm-hmm.
And so women will tend to support men quicker than they will support women. And that is, of course, it's a generational thing, right? Mm-hmm. Hopefully, the newer generation understand the value and the strength of women and the power of women and give it its value. We hope that's what's going to happen now.
Yeah. And so, and would you say that, with, when you were talking about a lot of the jobs and a lot of the economy that, you're seeing women bearing the brunt of that work, but do you see women in roles in which it's, about supporting the family, supporting the man and furtherance of the man, those kinds of roles are accepted, but not so much as, as her own person or in something like politics?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, so, so I know you're in Florida now, obviously, because you're part of the Florida Immigrant Coalition. So when you moved to Florida and became active in the Haitian community and social services, how is your experience different here in Florida than in Haiti? And how is it similar?
So when I first came here, I got to work with the Haitian community in Middle Haiti, and also in homeless shelters. And I have to say that I saw the difference. I guess that in leading social services, Haitian American community, we're used to seeing women leading social services because, in the United States, there's more women leading social services than men, right? Or at least providing the direct services. Case managers, social workers would tend to be women. And in the past, the directors were men, but we're seeing the shift. In the world of politics, when I first came 20 years ago, most of the elected officials, Haitian elected officials, were men. Now we're seeing a larger quantity of women. So the change is coming. They're understanding because they're seeing women of other nationalities in positions of power, they're being more welcoming of Haitian in positions of power. That to say that you will still find some older generations that if there is a Haitian man and a Haitian woman butting head or in the same race, that they might support the men.
Okay.
Because they do still believe that men are better negotiators, and I guess the masculinity makes them stronger. Not yet understanding that in the world of politics and even in the world of business, it's not a question of physical strength. It's actually a question of knowledge, intelligence, savoir-faire, ability to negotiate, and so on and so forth.
And do you feel that, with more and more Haitian women, as well as other, different types of women coming into office, you think that we're on the right track to eliminating, that kind of sense of identification with masculinity? or do you think that there's something else that we can do in addition to having more Haitian women, becoming the faces, becoming the people who are, have those seats in Congress? Do you think there's additionally stuff that we can do, to help that process along? You think we just have to just keep electing more and more, more and more, obviously, which is what we need to do, but do you think there's something additionally that we, can also do to help further that along, support that?
I do think that one of the things that we need to do is really give exposure to Haitian women with potential. Haitian women who are supportive of the Haitian community. We need to identify more potential Haitian leaders because there are more. More women out there. Encourage more women, recruit more women to be candidates, to be part of the political process. And I do think that it's crucial but possible that we assist, that we increase the number of Haitian women in politics here in the United States. And I'm not just talking about Florida, I'm talking about throughout the United States, in the diaspora. There are a lot of strong, valuable women who just need the right nudge, the right support to take on a major position in the political field.
Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, so that's great. Yeah, totally. And so it kind of leads into one thing. I think it's a stereotype about all women, although we know it's a stereotype, that some think about Haitian women. That women don't really, Haitian women and women in general don't really get along. Why do you think that some people believe this stereotype, and how do you think that affects collaboration between Haitian women?
Could you repeat that question?
Yes. So some think that Haitian women, really all women in general, don't get along. Why do you think that thought, that stereotype, why do you think that exists, and how do you think that affects collaboration between Haitian women?
So there are two sides to this. There's two sides to this. Alpha women, just like alpha females will not get along. That's typical human nature, right? And usually people that you find in leadership have alpha personalities. And now women and when you take a closer look at politics, really, and you take a close look at, I guess we tend to be a little bit more competitive. Could that change? I do think that if we were more supportive of each other, it would change. I do think that if we believe that there is enough space for everyone, we would be more successful. If we understood that we can actually, one, complement the other, we would be more successful. If we understood that if we were true leaders, because often they call us leaders, but are we true leaders? Because true leaders focus more on sharing the knowledge and sharing the power and making way for new leaders to come up. And so maybe there wouldn't be the battle between the younger leaders and the older leaders, right? There is definitely enough room for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
And, we don't have to be each other. So we have this term in Kreyòl that's called maplot, and I hope Haitians will understand. But we don't have to be each other's arch enemy. There is definitely, as a matter of fact, when we put our heads together and we come together to each bring in our power and knowledge and potential, we are so much more successful.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that, especially about the idea of, a true leader as somebody who, who's building the team, who utilizes the team correctly and who helps, each member of the team achieve their potential, and then they learn from them, and then, they build them up to eventually, be their, replace them, a mentoring thing. And I think it's just, we
Yes.
have to change that, the perception of, a leader is only somebody who should be, it's all a dictatorship, a tyrannical, my way or the highway kind of thing, which we have to change. And I think also because I think there's still in Congress, for example, and then probably in most governments, it's still mostly men. So I think that the more and more women that we see, it'll be less, at least in politics, but then also in all areas, really. The more and more women that we see, the more it becomes normal, the more people all are conditioned to it,
Yes.
the more that, it'll just be, not, people won't be at each other's throats so much. Hopefully. There'll still be competition, but it will
There was
be,
always,
yes.
always. But I do want to give you an anecdote and an example of what can happen when women put their heads together. After the departure at the end of the Duvalier dictatorship in 1986, 3 women came together, and the most important women's rights organizations in Haiti. One was InfoFemme, the other one was CAIFEM, and the last one was SOFA. They came together and they advised the Ministry of Women's Rights. And because they were able to come together, they were instrumental in developing the first law to criminalize rape in Haiti in 2005. Because before then, rape was still not criminalized in Haiti. It was just considered as an offense against morals. So this just is to show that when we align, when we come together, and we aim at the same goal, we can achieve tremendous things.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Definitely, yeah. So, can you identify the 3 biggest challenges that Haitian women in position of influence or in leadership may face, whether it is in Haiti or in the diaspora? And there's no right or wrong answer.
Yeah, I know. I mean, it's really one of them. I think the first one is really the support of the community,
Mm-hmm.
right? The first one is the support of the community, really making sure that. So the Haitian community tends to not stand behind their leaders, because when we put someone in a position of leadership, we also need to help them in the co-governance. We also need to support them, not just hold them accountable, but we also need to support them. And that is, I think, one of the biggest challenges that any woman in leadership would face. I think the second piece would be gaining the trust of the community. I do think that we still have a large Haitian American male community that will not put their trust in a female politician, in a female leader. And then there is the misogyny that exists within the Haitian community, and this tendency of reducing women to being a sexual object and using sexuality against a woman, especially when she becomes on a path to power. When she's on a path to power, or if she reaches a position of power, they will always try to. And again, Black women have been reduced to a sexual object for centuries, and unfortunately, in our community, in the Haitian community, it remains the same.
How do you feel that, if you could give some examples of how do you feel that people, try to objectify women once they, start to advance in power? Is it comments on appearances? Asking, oh, why doesn't she have a husband? Or why is she the one leading things while the husband's invisible? I mean, can you give some examples of how you see women being treated once they're on a path to power?
The first thing that is going, I want to first let you know that Haitian American community and Haitians in general tend to be very homophobic.
Mm-hmm.
And so one of the first things that will happen to a woman leader, a strong woman leader, the first thing that will happen will be pointing out to her sexuality and stating, well, if she's that strong, it's probably because she's bisexual or she's gay. If she doesn't show up constantly with a man, it's probably because she has, or it will be digging into her sexual life to find out if, what type of sex life that she has. Let's say if she's single. Now, whereas the romantic or personal life of a single male does not become a priority or matter of conversation unless it becomes scandalous.
Mm-hmm.
But for a Haitian woman, it's automatically, you're judged by who stands next to you, who stands by you. And then you're also held by certain standard of appearance, which are, they will always look to see how you dress, how you're showing up, with a certain expectation that instead of leaning into our African culture, leans more into the Western culture, right? They would expect us to look just like, to be in the perfect suit, for example.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's just it's such a problem across the board, and people have to just, condition themselves. Again, we're going back to conditioning, just condition themselves not to think that way, and to also, and to see, once we see more and more of it becoming normal, then people will stop the questioning and stop the abuse and everything. Because, of course, some of it is ill-intentioned, and those people know that, but other times it's just like, what we've been conditioned with film and with television and with our own mothers, our own grandmothers, our own sisters, in some cases our own daughters or granddaughters, to view women in this certain way.
Yes.
And the more that we can step back and say, no, we're not going to focus on those things, even if it might make us feel a little bit strange, the more it'll get better. So that's great to point that out. And so what Haitian women in history do you think serve as role models for Haitian society?
Sorry, could you?
Oh, okay. Let me.
Role models.
Mm-hmm.
I think for role models, we could come back. There's one person that's not much spoken about. We have, I think she was the first woman mayor, was Mila Petit. She's mayor of Al-Kaye,
Mm-hmm.
who's also leads women's rights in Haiti. We've seen strong women like the three that I mentioned earlier that advance women's rights movements. We've seen women like Maïlonce Lasseg who have fought for just politics and integration in Haiti. We've seen journalists like Michel Montas. We've also seen, however, we could talk about the famous women, but at the same time, I think that when we look at, sometimes you look at mothers who have been merchants on the side of the road, but have managed to put their children to medical school, or put their children to law school, or put their children through school. And this is understanding the strength that a Haitian woman has when she wants to make a difference in her life.
Mm-hmm.
When she understood that she needed to work from sun up to sundown to provide a proper education for her child or her children, and to make sure that her children has a future different than hers.
Mm-hmm.
So when we think about that, we can think also, we have the bigger names, right?
Mm-hmm.
We also have known Haitian women who were soldiers in 1804, 1803, 1804. We've had those strong women, Catherine Franc, who did our flag. We have all of these. However, we need to also remember the everyday Haitian woman, or the everyday Haitian woman who takes the chance to migrate walk for months with the children to come into the United States to give them a better life, or who gets on a boat with a child because they want to give that child a better life. They are all examples. When you take single mothers here in the United States who fight and work 2-3 jobs to raise their children, these are examples that we need to also look at. Look at them and ask ourselves, if they have the strength to do it and they don't have the privileges that we have, then we should learn from them that the strength is within us to make the difference. And if they have the capacity to make that kind of difference that they're making, which is huge, and we may see it as nothing because it's just their children, but it's actually huge. And if we have the capacity to do this, then they also have, we need to also understand that we have the capacity to make the change at a larger scale as leaders.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good point because, there's so many great, accomplishments that famous people, have done over the years and through history and everything. But I mean, when it comes to a lot of the things that we want, or the things that, like with a lot of the problems that we're having and that are keeping us from getting what we want, we have to look at the people around us who might not be, household names, but are people who, have overcame, huge adversarial obstacles and everything. And yeah, were you going to say something?
No, I said definitely. I was just
agreeing. Yeah. Yeah, and I think, there's so much, there's so many stories, that I could tell about, women in my family, and then, anybody can tell about, people who have, served that example and accomplished so much. Yeah, so how does your experience as a Black woman in the workplace differ from your experience outside of the workplace? Do you face the same challenges in both?
I have to say I've been kind of lucky, but in the workplace, I've been kind of lucky. I've been in positions of leadership. I've ran homeless shelters, programs for Haitians. I was program director with Catholic Charities for years, and I've been either director of finance or now co-executive director with the Florida Immigrant Coalition. So I've been in positions of leadership. Now, have I experienced microaggressions? Yes. Have I experienced the feeling of being treated differently because of maybe it is because of the color of my skin, or maybe it is because I have the difference in culture, right? But have I? Yes. But it's more, and sometimes you realize that it's unknowingly that people do certain things sometimes, and you forgive them. Now, outside of the workplace, yes, I have in non-Black surroundings. Yes, I have definitely been treated differently. And I have also witnessed other young Black women and older Black women being treated differently. I can't say that I don't feel the stare when I walk into let's say a restaurant, like an expensive restaurant or an expensive store, especially if I'm accompanied by someone who is Black as well, or even darker than I am, because there is colorism and there are different shades of melanin. And so have I experienced it on the outside here in the state of Florida? Yes. Is racism flagrant here? Yes, I have. My daughter has experienced this many times since she was a kid in school up to now. So it is common.
Mm-hmm.
It is common. And also there is a slight difference versus being a Black woman, because you could be a Black woman or you could be considered as a woman of color. They will more quickly call me a woman of color than call me a Black woman. But then there's the minute they start realizing that I don't speak Spanish. I'm not a Latina.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And I only speak English. And so it's okay. If I'm not a Latina, then that means that I'm Black. And where am I from? And then there's also adding to the fact that once they realize, because you have to understand that people also have biases based on the country you come from. And so you will quickly, I mean, I often hear it, like, you don't look Haitian. And every Haitian will tell you this. What is a Haitian supposed to look like?
Yeah.
You know, and then you see the difference in the treatment the minute they realize your origin and therefore your level of Blackness. Because I may pass for a woman, what we'll call a woman of color, but I come from Haiti, so I'm obviously a Black woman. There's no doubt there.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just, there's all those, you know, I don't know, because everybody comes in with a certain set of, like, you know, what it means to be Black or what it means to be Hispanic or what it means to be this or that, just based on their, you know, what limited understanding of the world. And, you know, it's just, you know, like similar to what we were talking about earlier, you know, learning and seeing and, you know, and just kind of just getting used to all of the, you know, kind of different identities and different, you know, people who you don't normally see in those positions of power, or people who you don't normally interact with. Once you start to see, and then once you start to interact, then it starts to become more normal, and those misconceptions and, you know, stereotypes fall away. And sticking on this question, but just changing a little bit, you mentioned that you have a daughter. How do you feel that your role as a mother, how do you feel that differs from your role in the workplace? How do you think it's similar?
One of the similarities is that whether I'm in the workplace or I'm at home with my child, it is my responsibility to give them the best of me. Now, I will definitely give more to my daughter. What I'm giving is different. But share my knowledge and the wisdom and so that's one thing that I do in both places. The other thing is be as supportive as possible. That's the second part that I do. In many occasions, people have said I'm like a mom at work. I'm also a mom at home. The similarities are that, I mean, I definitely spoil my daughter way more than I spoil folks that I work with, but I also spoil the folks that I work with.
Uh-huh. Well, they appreciate that. I'm sure your daughter does too.
My daughter's spoiled rotten. I think the only difference is my need to protect my daughter. I do try to a certain extent. I guess the way I think about protecting my daughter is different from the way I think about being present and protecting the staff that I work with.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't use the word protect. I would use the word support with them. And empower. I also empower my daughter and I empower everyone I work with. I do believe that leadership and making the pathway for other people to come as I'm, you know, heading out is the way to do it. But I do protect my daughter because I do understand that she is treated differently. Mm-hmm. And she has experienced racism and she needs to be strong. Not just as a Black woman, as a woman, she needs to be strong. And then as a Black woman, she needs to understand what life is, the biases that she will meet, stand strong for what she believes in, not be afraid to stand strong for what she believes in, and to speak up and speak out and don't give in. And I think one of the things also that we're seeing that can be a battle when you're raising, as a Black woman, being a mother raising a daughter, and if I were raising a son, the challenge would have been different because it's harder for a Black man to make it in this world. But raising a Black woman is also very important, making her understand how beautiful she is. Mm-hmm. And all of those biases that affect them sometimes. This Western culture that explained that certain of our features are too pronounced or too rough. Accepting our beauty, accepting the texture of our skin, the color of our skin, and the texture of our hair, and what we are, and also our culture, right? The way we speak, the way we express ourselves, the way we be comfortable in our skin, and not allow ourselves to have to bend over backward to fit in a world, to fit in a box that they're creating for us.
Yeah.
So it's, for example, I was reading an article recently on in Haiti, where because in Haiti there's a lot of schools ran by nuns, and where young girls were encouraged to perm their hair because natural hair was not acceptable. Well, it is who we are. And accepting who we are, accepting our hair is accepting who we are.
Yeah.
And so that's the part, and teaching my daughter that she needs to stand for who she is. In every part of who she is.
Yeah, that's really nice. It's inspiring and everything. Yeah, because there's definitely that huge, just trying, the way the media, the way people in life just, have this one standard of beauty, for everybody. And then, with, certain, saying that, Black women are too this or too that or too masculine or whatever. It's just like, just enough of that, Just tired of hearing that, Just, just let it go. The world is round. It's like,
Exactly.
yes, the world is round. So what would you say, what are your thoughts on the evolution of the women's rights movement in Haiti? I know it's has a long history and lots of ups and downs, but how do you feel that it's progressed today, and where do you think it still needs to go?
So the women's rights movement was really growing from '86 until the earthquake. It was taking its shape. It was gaining some strength. From the time of the earthquake, I guess the earthquake kind of allowed us to see the differences, because there were a lot of criticism towards the Haitian government and even other organizations who were doing studies of the impact of the earthquake, and who ignored the impact of the earthquake on women. So they only considered men. So it really showed that there was much work to still be done. I mean, we passed this, criminalizing rape in 2005. Come on, right? And then since then, there were other policies, because Haiti saw so much weakness in its political system, and no laws were basically voted on for years. We've seen a decline in the women's rights movement. Because the only way for the women's rights movement to advance in Haiti, there needs to be laws that need to be changed. And we've seen a decline. And I think also the increase in poverty has kind of shifted folks to really thinking about, though we've seen some women come together in entrepreneurship, women are trying. There are women trying, but it is not where I think it could have been, because so many women had to pick up deal with the consequences of the earthquake, and try to move forward in a country where repairs and redevelopment was not happening. So they've had to adjust so much. And when you think about this, there's a certain level of despair or loss of hope that comes when, after the earthquake, there were hundreds of thousands of millions of people who were displaced. And in those displacement camps, in those temporary camps, there was so much violence against women. There was women and children. There was so much rape. And we're still seeing so much violence against women that I think, though women are speaking out against violence against women, against rape, against sexual abuse of children, against physical abuse, the women are speaking out, but because there is no law enforcement and there is no real judicial system that is set to protect women, we're losing hope, right? And it's just like, if it happens, I'll just be quiet and just keep living, because it's not like it's going to make a difference. So it has taken a hit, and just like everything else in Haiti, it's going to take quite a bit of work and a lot of time to get it back on it, to get it back on its feet.
Okay, yeah, definitely. And, we want to do, in whatever role that, we have, help that along in whatever way, to help Haiti, find its footing, and then, have everything kind of progress. But yeah, I know that the earthquake, obliterated a lot of the progress, because, I mean, there were already problems, and then, then the earthquake comes along and the problems get worse. Or, and then there's new problems. So I guess, one thing I wanted to ask about, as somebody, since you're the executive director of Flick, or co-executive director of Flick, what are things that you find, the most enjoyable, the most meaningful, to you as a, a Haitian woman in leadership at Flick?
Right now, what I'm finding most enjoyable is the capacity to think about the advantage of being in a position where I can dare to think about bringing the Haitian community in the forefront of the immigrants' rights movement. Being able to bring Black immigrants in the forefront of the immigrant rights movement in the state of Florida, where when you talk immigrants, people think Latino. Right?
Yeah.
And also knowing that as I think about it, I still remain aware that, I still focus on fighting for immigrants' rights across the board, but knowing that I have the opportunity to be limitless in what I can do. The only thing that can stop me is my creativity. And me daring to make a difference. And I need to take advantage of that. Me facing my own fears. My own fears are the only thing that can stop me right now. To make the difference that I want to see Black immigrants empowered and have governing power. And also to see immigrants in general, but that is the key thing. And then the other thing is also for me to dare to think about the transnational impact that this work can have, because we're never going to solve immigration issues in the United States. What we need to address are the root causes of migration. And as a Haitian, I will, of course, try to focus on the root causes of migration and try to use my position to access or impact as much as possible change in Haiti, because I know that Haitians want to stay home. Haiti's a beautiful country. Haiti's close to perfect, except with everything that's happening. But so all we got to do is fix it. And but the root cause of the migration of Haitians and the root cause of the actual situation of Haiti only resides in Haiti. Only half of it resides in Haiti. The other half is outside of Haiti. It's international policies, it's foreign policies. And so how, as we're addressing immigration policies here, how can we take it a step further and see how the policies that we're addressing here can impact foreign policies, United States foreign policies, and make the change that we want in our countries so our people stop migrating here. So we're actually killing two birds with one stone. We're solving the problem for the United States and we're solving the problem for home.
Yeah, that's really nice. I love that, and I love the part about having more people being more aware of Black immigrants, and of the struggle there. Because yeah, I mean, typically, when we think immigration, we think, 100 years ago, Ellis Island, and then we think of the southern border, with Hispanics coming, from Latin America and from South America. Well, it's the same thing. Sorry, I meant Central America and South America. And what ways have you been with Flick? How have you been doing that? Through protests, through media appearances, through, I mean, even through the use of just digital media and just, imagery alone, because those are so powerful. Like, how have you been working to bring, the faces and the struggles of Black immigrants to the forefront?
So far what we've done is we've collaborated with some of our partners to bring out the difference and to cry out, to raise awareness about how Black immigrants are treated differently. It's been mostly on social media. It's been through earned media, like press conferences, really call out on, for example, when we look at the treatment of Haitians at the border and the use of Title 42 against Haitians, Haiti was actually the first and only country that was not next to the first and only country that the people could not be sent back to Mexico, that the folks were actually sent back to their country. Haiti was the first one. They've only started with Colombia, I think, last week, and it started with Venezuelans shortly, about a month ago, sending them back to Colombia. And then the other folks that they were really using Title 42 against were Mexicans, Guatemalans, Nicaraguans, because they had an agreement with Mexico that they could be sent back to Mexico. But Haitians were the first and only country for over a year that they were bringing into the United States, putting in quarantine, mistreating for days, and then putting on a plane and sending them back to Haiti in shackles. So we know the difference. We know the difference in the treatment. We know the difference in... So we have tried to raise awareness around that, and our work will definitely continue. We just have to... What we're trying to do now is come up with their media strategy. How do we get them to come and tell their story?
Mm-hmm.
So people can really understand the differences that have existed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, all power to you and everything. Yeah, it was so sad with those images back in September, and yeah, I mean, we have to, the people have to have their, their asylum claims processed and everything, and and be treated with respect. I mean, it's just it's horrible how dehumanizing, what immigrants go through at the border. It's definitely something that I, as an American, feel shame about and want to help stop. So, thank you for speaking on that and then inspiring me there. So my last question is, we know that Haitian women and all women minorities are disproportionately affected by the struggles that women face in the world in ways in which that women are not in the U.S. What would be your advice for them?
Disproportionately. My advice would be there is strength somewhere. Just keep holding on. And the truth is, I don't want to tell them to keep surviving. What I want to tell them is somewhere in there is a fighter. And they need to understand that no one woman would do it alone. If one woman can make a difference, But we can make such a difference if we understand the power that we have and we put our heads together. And we see it in communities where some groups put their heads together, where they're able to rebuild villages, rebuild tribes, protect their children. We've seen it in indigenous communities in the Northern Triangle. We've seen it, so it is possible, right? And so what I'm saying to them is understand the power of togetherness.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the only way out. Protect each other because we're stronger united.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's a hard lesson, to learn since, so many people, are so focused on their own kind of thing. And then in this age of social media now, and everybody being online, it's hard for people not to be, so self-absorbed and everything. But yeah.
Globalism. So it's globalism that have made us more individualist.
Yes. Yes. But that's the thing that, what you were talking about with using social media to elevate, Black immigrants, social media, I mean, what we're even doing right now, we're holding an event together, we invited people to the event, we're using social media not for individualist purposes, but, for multiple, to bring people together, to make an impact, to be part of the conversation. So, I think that that's a good tool, for us to have.
Yes.
So that concludes the event today, and it was a real pleasure to have you and speak to you, Tessa. I feel inspired. I hope you enjoyed the discussion, and I hope everybody watching.
I enjoyed the conversation very much. Thank you, Sammy.
Thank you.
And thank you, Teller Management, for organizing this.
Yes, definitely, yes. And we're sorry about the tech delay earlier to all those who were all those who were watching, and yeah. And thank you so much, and we hope to see you soon.
Hope to see you soon.
All right, bye-bye. Bye-bye.